we're invited to have a feeling because we choose to have the feeling rather than relying on the world around us to give us a reason. Just from 3 minutes of that process.
Which was shift focus, shift breath, shift feeling.
The feeling. Awaken the longevity enzymes. We trigger the healing of the telomeres. When we eat foods that have been exposed to high heat, for example, water that has impurities or the wrong pH, our body has to work to compensate for that. Pollutants in the air. We're exposed to this stuff all the time. So those are levels of stress we may not even be aware of. And this coherence actually relieves that stress. It heals all the way down to the molecular level. And what the research has shown is 3 minutes, a minimum of 3 minutes, will increase the DHEA levels over 100%, precursor to every other hormone in the body, male and female both, without taking any supplements or changing a diet or anything. And you decrease the cortisol levels, the stress hormones, by about 23% after only 3 minutes. And those effects will last up to 6 hours. The point is to honor the gift of this body to the point where you don't need that kind of intervention because you are maintaining through the ability to self-regulate. This is where the wisdom comes from. And I'm making a distinction between wisdom and knowledge. So the knowledge is the nuts and bolts, tells us how things work. That's cool. What do you do with that? That's the wisdom of how you apply it in your life. So you mentioned the story of, and I didn't get to that, of the heart. The first heart transplants, I believe, began back in the 1960s. Typically, your donor is anonymous. You don't get to know anything about the person. A young girl who was being chased by a man in a forested area. She tripped and fell. The man caught up with her. He assaulted her, and she died. And her heart was transplanted into the body of another teenage girl, and it was successful. Almost immediately, the girl began having nightmares. The psychiatrist almost immediately recognized that these weren't dreams, they were memories. And they brought in a forensic artist from the police department, and they asked this young girl to describe the face of the man that she was seeing in her dreams that were recurring. And she did, and they put out an APB. The man was recognized. He was living in the community. They brought him in, and under questioning, he broke down and admitted to taking the life of the girl whose heart was now in the woman who was recalling the memory. Based on that information, he was accused, he was tried, he was convicted, and he is now imprisoned. And it was all possible because of a memory that resided with the heart. And notice I'm not saying in the heart. It resided with the heart of the girl who received the trauma. The man admitted to the words, the actual words that the girl was reciting from her dreams were the words that he used as he was killing her. And that was pretty much what tipped the scales. That got the attention of the authorities. And they said, how can this be possible? And this was part of the recognition of the power of this neural network and the fact that the heart has an independent memory of the cranial brain, feels, remembers, it thinks, it senses independently of the brain. And now when you think about us as humans, here we are walking this earth, we navigate these two realms every day in our lives, and we don't think anything about it because that's how good we are, most of us. And we are constantly doing this dance between what's happening in the neural network of the heart and the neural network in the brain.
Well, when I first heard it, I was like, holy shit. I looked into it because I wanted to make sure, check the validity of it. And it's just so powerful as to the memory that comes with the heart, as you were speaking to, the field that's connected to the memories or the neurites that are there.
The coherence between the heart and the brain that's created from that can also be the launch point, spiritual and trans-spiritual experiences. When we want to access what some people maybe call our higher self, or whatever it is that you want to call it, the deep intuition, when we communicate with our heart, there is a peer-reviewed, I'm going to paraphrase the sentence, the physical heart is now recognized as being coupled to a field of energy that transcends the limits of space and time as we know them today. Scientists announced the existence of this field that underlies all of creation. There's a property of entanglement. Everything's connected to everything else, and I can talk about that more in a minute. It is holographic. That means that the whole is reflected in the part, as above, so below. It is fractal, and we talked about that in the last podcast. All the matter, the physical matter in the universe was compressed into the space about the size of a single green pea. Then the release of energy, all of that matter began to expand into the universe. It continues to expand today. The universe is still expanding. When it was in that green pea, it was connected. And even though it's no longer physically connected, it is energetically connected. We are all energetically connected to varying degrees. The heart, apparently, speaks to that field on a level beyond the linear. There was an experiment that was done in Switzerland in 1997 called the twin photon experiment. What the physicists did was they took a single photon, they cut it in two because they wanted two identical photons, same properties, and they sent one photon 7 miles down this fiber optic cable, 7 miles, the other one down that fiber optic cable, and they're now 14 miles apart. And then the experiments begin. What they found was whatever they do to one photon, the other one acts like it's having the same experience at the same time. And the trick question was, how does this photon tell this photon what's happening? So they used atomic clocks, and they said, what is the difference in time between when this photon has its experience and this one registered it? The difference in time was 0. It was simultaneous. There was no difference in time, which means this one cannot be sending its experience to this one. How'd the information get from here to here? It didn't, because it's already there, because it is entangled. The property of entanglement was being proven in that experiment. So this is why a woman said to me in an event once, she said, how do I get my prayer from my living room to my kids who are having a hard time? The prayer's already there. Our job is to create the prayer. And this goes a long way to helping us to understand how this field works, Andre. The field is neutral, and it can only act on what we give it to work with. So when we ask for something to happen, we ask for a prayer to be fulfilled, what you're saying to the field is, it's not fulfilled now. You're saying, please let this thing happen. What that means is it hasn't happened yet. And the field will reflect that not happening, which is very different than giving thanks for the outcome that's already occurred. Thank you for the healing that's already occurred. Thank you for the safety of my family. Thank you for a beautiful interview with Andre. That was my prayer this morning. Because now you're giving the field something it can work with, and it is mirroring back. And this is a big part of where the heart comes in, because the heart, now scientifically documented in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, is coupled to this field. They know it's coupled to this field. So this is science taking a big leap, saying, wow, there's something going on here. There's a part of our bodies that is actually tuned to communicate to the stuff our world is made of. There's a beautiful place where science and spirituality come together, even though a lot of scientists don't like it. And a lot of people that follow spirituality, they don't like it either. They like to think that the spirituality somehow supersedes the science. And the scientists like to think that they're more modern. But here's what happens when we drop those judgments and we allow the two great ways of knowing, the science of 300 years and the spirituality of 5,000 years. Those are two forms of knowledge. When we allow that knowledge to honor and serve us, we then create a wisdom that's greater than any piece of knowledge can be.